going to get a very clear answer. And it's very hard, I think, to take a felony conviction on any count as anything other than a very serious outcome in this jury.
Hello,
and likewise,
everyone.
and again, we don't know what it's going to be. If
Right,
he were
I said
acquitted on all
once we get
34 counts, that would be a big deal. But we now are in this clarity that we didn't know 10 minutes ago, or for the last weeks of this trial and months of this process. There's going to be a unanimous verdict on some, if not all counts.
You're going to
I think
be
on all
okay.
counts,
Right?
because I think
Keep
if it
that
was
in mind.
there was a partial verdict, in other words, they only have on some, they would have had to have said that. They would have had to say, we actually can't reach a verdict. I actually think one of the things that's remarkable is going into this, all of us were saying, how are you not going to avoid some holdout juror on one side or the other?
We'll see. We're going to keep our expectations
interesting
low.
here is that you do have all 12 agreeing on whatever the verdict is, and I think that my biggest concern going into this was that holdout.
Let me just do a little bit of playing the monitor of the clock. That's my only value today. It has been 30 minutes since the jury sent a note saying that it needed 30 minutes to fill out the form. I'm guessing if they needed 35 or 37, the judge would certainly give it to them. But what they said they needed was 30 minutes. It has been 30 minutes. DA Alvin Bragg has entered the courtroom, as well as his team of prosecutors. We've come to know a lot of them by name. Joshua Steinglass delivered the closing argument. We've come to know, I think, his earnestness through the transcripts that we've all read. We've come to know the president's legal team as well through their aggressive efforts at defending their client, Donald Trump. Do we still have Ron Hilliard with us down outside the courthouse?
It'll be okay. Oh, don't shake, Valerie.
Hey, what are you hearing down there?
Lower your expectations. It's going to be okay.
We're trying to get word from exactly what Donald Trump's plans are after this verdict. Of course, he has been staying at Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan, about 3.5 miles north of here, instead of staying at Mar-a-Lago, where he has been residing. This has been for him a daily routine for 6 straight weeks. For Donald Trump, this is a moment you could say is 8 years in the making. If you take a step back here, this was a story that was not known to the American public in the weeks before the 2016 election that came down to about 108,000 votes between 3 battleground states. The difference between Donald Trump and
All right. So while we're waiting, actually, it's
a story that didn't become public until
on or muted. Just so you know. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. I just pulled some cards, and seriously, we're going to be okay. All right. I am getting that the jury really did look at the evidence. It was him and it was the whole group working together. That's the prosecutor. But I've got a death card with the 8 of Wands, which is making me think that the prosecutor sent this through the evidence and whatnot, and that the Trump side will they'll just throw everything they can at this to pretend it's not real or whatever. Okay, so hang on, let me put the sound back on.
Workers that are going to determine that moments from now.
It's such an important, I think, widening of the arc of this story, Von Hilliard, and for you and I who covered the political side of this, it was a political car crash that rolled out in slow motion with Donald Trump standing on the most elegant airplane in the world, Air Force One, and saying, oh, we're going to ask Michael Cohen about that. Rudy Giuliani on Sean Hannity's program saying, well, the money was funneled through a law firm to Michael Cohen. I mean, these quasi-confessions to elements of it. And even as the trial wound its way through 22 witnesses, Donald Trump rambling up to today about how good his NDAs are. We have the fullest picture yet of a story that Donald Trump, the candidate in 2016, didn't want the American voters to know about. It is the only criminal trial where the substance of what he's charged with is not part of his stump speech. And I say that because the insurrection and the insurrectionists have been woven into the fabric of his campaign to be president in 2024. And his defense in Mar-a-Lago is the PRA, Presidential Records Act. They let you do it. They let you take stuff. This case and these facts, Stormy Daniels and David Pecker and Keith Davidson, these are not characters, names, or acts that enter into his political message, even to his own very devoted base of supporters.
He will not be locked up tonight.
And
they are not going to take him away in handcuffs.
About the events that unfolded.
So you know.
He said that it was a photo op that he had with Stormy Daniels, but that he never had a sexual encounter with her, despite her testifying to this jury that they met multiple times thereafter, including at Trump Tower. And that it was the Stormy Daniels testimony that was corroborated by Michael Cohen. And Donald Trump, when he had the opportunity to not just make a public denial, but go under oath before this jury and provide his own side of the story, he chose not to. Instead, he stayed as the defendant there and allowed his defense team to call just 2 witnesses forward, making the conscious decision to allow his team to do the work and for him not to go speak before the jury. It was a decision that we know that Donald Trump did not take lightly. He had said from the outset of this trial that he intended to take the stand, but when the moment came, he chose not to. And now it's going to be the fate of these of his that is going to be lying with these 12 jurors, these New Yorkers. He grew up here. Fred Trump, his father, started the Trump Organization, and all these years later, it is now here in Lower Manhattan, where the district attorney brought a criminal indictment of 34 felony counts and left it to 12 jurors to determine his guilt.
Ari, Andrew, what is happening right now?
I can.
Well, or Sue, go ahead.
No, I've just got a little bit of information.
Please.
We've got a team of New York Times reporters in the courtroom, and I just first of all want to let viewers know that Donald Trump was in the courtroom when this news came in, because we were expecting initially that they may let the jury go.
Right.
So he is now still in the courtroom. Apparently, he largely has his eyes closed, as he has through most of the proceedings, and Eric Trump is seated behind him. And I think there's plans after the verdict is announced for him to speak outside the courtroom right now.
Okay.
So that happens
as well. Ari, you tell me what we're going to see. What are we going to see when a verdict comes in? You've got it on.
Yeah, we're tracking it internally. We have people in the courtroom and in the overflow
Breathe
room, and I
out
think it's not an exaggeration
for longer
to say
than
the
you
eyes
breathe
of the
in.
nation and the world are in this New York courtroom right now. I'll remind folks that we don't get access to cameras in public, but the overflow room does have cameras.
They've got eyes on the
Exactly. So they have eyes on the judge. The jury their identities are anonymous, but we see them. And if you're in the courtroom, you definitely see them. So this jury is going to file in. Having filled out the form, we would expect the foreperson to read it off. And so we will get in time, and it might be halting. It might be 1, 2, a pause, a third, a fourth. It's going to take time. It's going to take as long as it takes. But they're going to read out what the foreperson reflects is the unanimous decision of the jury on those counts. Then quite frequently, we would see a judge after that poll to make sure that everyone agrees, which again is done for the record. It's not that we expect anything to depart from that, but no one is spoken for on a matter of this significance with regard to that. And so what that would sound like is us reading out in real time, and we're tracking it with our team, the same team of folks you've been talking to on air and off. We work with a lot of people as a team effort to track each count as it comes in. And again, as a guide, there are cases Andrew and I can discuss that are more complicated, where you have, for example, a bunch of misdemeanors and a bunch of felonies, and you're really tracking. This is more of an all-in-one. So as I said, in fairness to the defendant, if it's an acquittal across the board, that's a big deal. If it's a conviction on some counts, then he would have been, we're not reporting this right now, but if you get acquittal, that's acquittal. And if you get a conviction, then you have a felony conviction on one or more counts.
Thank you.
I just want to warn people that because the tea leaf reading is that this could easily be what's called a mixed verdict, where there's some acquittals and some guilty.
Let me just put a pin in it. Court is in session. Rashawn is on the bench. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, they're easily, the counts that they could acquit on could be the first one. So people need to sort of be patient.
Take a breath and listen.
Exactly.
So the jury is right now entering the courthouse. Von Hilliard, do we know anything else?
We know that Donald Trump and Todd Blanche, they know that they are on camera. Todd Blanche has been covering up his mouth here as he has been talking to his client, the defendant, Donald Trump. Judge Merchan is back in. Court is officially in session. The jury is now officially entering the courtroom.
We are, as Ari Melber just said, the eyes is not an
it's out of our
overstatement
hands
to say the eyes of the
We're
world.
make
We've
it
had an
through.
opportunity
Just
to
breathe.
interview some of the foreign
Just
journalists
breathe.
over the last 5 weeks. Suzanne Craig, I think all of my colleagues have made their way down to this line to stand, to have the privilege to be inside, to hear the rule of law in action. The jury has done its part. They asked for 4 specific pieces of testimony right back to them. They wanted some clarification on the instructions given to them by Judge Juan Merchan. They have rendered a verdict. They asked for 30 extra minutes to fill out their form. As Andrew Weissman continues to, Andrew Weissman, tell me about your paper. You've got 34 lines there. You're gonna do I can't even get into my computer, so I'm very happy to see you with your paper and you with your laptop. Rachel Maddow has joined the set. I'm going to make sure you're hooked up, you wired in, you ready to go?
I'm wired in. I've got no computer either, but I've got a lot of thoughts.
Okay, tell me, what do you think?
Well, I mean, this is
Thank you, Michelle.
This is
Thank
an important
you.
moment, and we don't know yet, and we're about to know. But I just think for those of us who've had the privilege of covering this story, this moment before the verdict gets here is important. Just take a breath, right? This is we are a democracy. This is a government of, by, and for the people, and that means that everybody is subject to the rule of law, and we are about to see that in action. And whatever these jurors decided, they are peers of Donald Trump as citizens, and they have followed an impeccable process. And if there's anything that isn't impeccable about this process, he will have full access as a defendant to the appeals process. And this is a moment of sort of democratic reset, small d democratic reset for us as a country. Accountability is happening here because we are a democracy and because the rule of law applies to all of us. And as a defendant, he has benefited from the protections that all defendants have. And this is a sober thing. Some people will dance in the streets no matter what this ruling is on one side or the other. Those of us in the press covering this will not, no matter what it is. We have the responsibility to cover this fairly, but I think we also have the responsibility as citizens to just realize the gravity of this moment.
I think it's important to nod to what Judge Juan Merchan has accomplished. Again, regardless of what verdict the jury landed on, what Judge Juan Merchan was able to do was in the face of threats. I mean, the story we were going to cover before we learned that the jury had sent a note around 4:20 saying they'd reached a verdict was a story about death threats he is receiving. Before day one of testimony, his daughter was targeted. Every day, Trump had surrogates there in red ties trying to threaten what you're describing, the rule of law. And I think it should not be minimized that this trial was fair, that Judge Merchan sometimes objected on the part of the defense, particularly during Stormy Daniels' testimony, and then sustained his own objections, however that works, that weren't made by the defense. But to Rachel's point about fairness, that was clearly
I'm getting good cards about this.
The ethos that this
things are
judge
fair
brought to this courtroom.
They may not be perfect, but they're fair.
And managed what is an unusual defendant, legally unusual, because we've never had a former president be in a situation where there was enough evidence to indict and try them. Programmatically or stylistically unusual because he did violate the gag order. He was held in contempt, and the judge had to decide how to manage all that and did it to play for, I think, time rather than conflict.
Everyone is poking me. What do we got? What do we got? Oh, the alternate jurors have entered. They've taken their seat in the front row of the gallery. That's from Jenna Bromwich, a reporter on this story for the New York Times. Sue Craig, what are you hearing?
It's just about to happen. It's incredible. And I was also just thinking about the judge and how fair he has been, but how tough he has been on Donald Trump.
It's okay.
Directly with issues about the gag order and how firm he has been.
Breathe.
And I think it really did shut a lot down at the end. It didn't shut everything down. But I just had a lot of respect sitting in the courtroom, watching that judge day in and day out, just how even he was.
Well, and we should say what he policed against, what he guarded against were histrionics. His most intense display of emotion was when Donald Trump's attorney said, you can't send Donald Trump to prison based on Michael Cohen. He cleared out I mean, he really tried to preserve the letter of the law, the sanctity of the law, and to minimize melodrama.
And the antics when the one witness that they did call came up, Costello, and was giving him side eye and sighing, and he was like having
staring me down.
None of that.
So let me just bring our viewers. I'll tell you everything I know. So for our colleagues who were sitting in the overflow room, there's a screen, and on that screen, that's where they see an image of Judge Merchan and the jury, as Ari saying, and Donald Trump and his attorneys and the prosecutors. That screen is still in standby mode, which means we've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Those are the first 5 counts coming out of this jury, finding Donald J. Trump guilty on the first 5 felony counts. Reading the rest as we are getting it from our court reporters.
Starting with count 6.
Count 6, guilty. Count 7, guilty. Count 8, guilty. And you'll see on the screen we're tracking ahead. Count 9, guilty. Count 10, guilty. Count 11, guilty. Count 12, guilty. Count 13, guilty. Count 14, guilty. Count 16, guilty. Count 17, guilty. Count 18, guilty. Count 19, guilty. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty. Count 23, guilty. Count 24, guilty. Count 25, guilty. Count 26, guilty. Count 27, we're seeing that on screen, guilty. Count 28, guilty. Those are the first 28 felony counts here as read by the jury. Count 29, guilty. Count 30, guilty. Count 31, guilty. Count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
Rachel?
Listen, it's a unanimous jury verdict, unanimous on all counts. This is a definitive and, this is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal. But this is everything that the prosecution asked for from a jury that, by all accounts, took this thing very, very seriously. We counted the deliberation hours down here. The test here for us as a country is not about what happens on appeal and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country. They have tried to delegitimize this judge. They have tried to delegitimize this court. They have tried to delegitimize these proceedings. They've even tried to delegitimize the laws that he was charged under. Those efforts are the tests that we now have as a country. The people involved in bringing this case have been threatened and intimidated and had everything brought to bear on against them in a way that was designed to delegitimize this process in the eyes of the American people. It is now in the hands of the American people to decide if we will accept those efforts or whether we will stand by the rule of law and recognize this as a fair proceeding.
A wise woman said a few nights ago, 2 Mondays ago, that the rule of law is mortal. It needs to be protected. It isn't an abstract thing. And today, the people have names that we've all come to know. They're named Joshua Steinglass. They're named Alvin Bragg. They're named Susan Hoffinger.
Yeah. And there are other cases that are pending against Donald Trump as a criminal defendant. The difference is that we now know as a country what it is to put a former president on trial and to see that trial to fruition. That is something that was hypothetical before we ever had this guy as a former president. But now we have lived through it, and we know that the court process can work. A defendant who is a former president can be tried as a normal defendant. Again, the appeals process will go on, the sentencing process will go on, and those will all be pressure points. But the legal system in this country treats any former president as any citizen. We've seen that today, and this jury deserves to be thanked for their efforts and to be protected to be protected from the kinds of attacks and intimidation and recrimination that the president and his allies have tried to bring down on this process.
Let me just tell folks who haven't.
Oh, my cheeks hurt.
What Ari said or Andrew said would happen has happened. Judge Merchan went juror to juror to juror. They all concurred with the verdict that Donald Trump is guilty on all 34 criminal counts, 34 felonies, and they have been thanked for their service. Ari.
Yeah, what you just reported and what Rachel was reminding us is actually existing in a microcosm within the trial, because the jury is being polled, the jury of the peers of the defendant, as is his right. So that's legally something where the defense counsel is asked, do you want to make sure? They almost always, virtually always say yes. And so we're told, and we're looking at our notes here, pardon me for looking down, but our reporters are seeing the defendant, Donald Trump, is looking at the jury, is watching them as they are individually polled. But this is, as Rachel reminded us, someone who has been held in contempt for what he has said and done against other people and witnesses in the system. So I would call that a fairly intense moment. But good for the jury and good for the system to go right through it. Our reporters also telling us that while Trump has rarely shown emotion or changed his, quote, demeanor throughout the trial right now, he's only looking down. Eric Trump reportedly looking upset. And that's the scene in the room as they go through it.
Sure. When you say poll the jury, what you mean is individually, jurors by number will be asked, is this your verdict? And then they each have to answer orally. They have to say out loud, yes.
Yes, and that's the transparency.
It's got to be a scary moment for those individual jurors.
Right, as they're being stared down, but it's a transparency in our system. You said something so important. The system worked. We discussed earlier when we were awaiting this that it works not because of the result, but because of the process. And that if it were an acquittal, we would be discussing that the system went forward. This is that system, and the judge and the bailiffs and others are there to protect the people and protect them in a physical sense as needed. But what we are hearing is that this jury heard the evidence, asked these questions. We know some of what was on their minds. We haven't heard from them other than the verdict, and now are confirming that this is their unanimous verdict. And so it's a matter of transparency that everyone sees each of them confirm what was officialized today, that Donald Trump is guilty, that all 12 jurors unanimously reached that decision through their reasoning with each other on all 34 counts.
Andrew.
Just to Rachel's point, there is something in every trial when the jury is polled that is sort of magical and fundamental to this country, where the jurors, each one stands up and counts as a citizen. And these are people who have everyday lives. They didn't ask to be here. And that moment where the country this is what the country stands for. This is what the rule of law means. And jurors take it so seriously. And yes, it can be scary because of it, but you know what? They did their job. And I think that this is a testament to our joining so many other democracies in the international community who have managed to hold political leaders to account. And we have shown that we can do that as well in a fair process where the defendant got extremely good counsel, had an incredibly fair process from this judge, in spite of his attacking the witnesses, the judge's family, the jurors. Everybody did their job. And finally, on a small bore, Alvin Bragg, he was attacked. He was vilified for saying no to this case office, and people said, that how could he do that? And he said, after he said it wasn't ready. And this is a real vindication for him that he said, I'm going to bring it when it is ready and if it is ready. And then he brought
Wayne, that's true. Jury duty is not easy. Kudos to all the jurors. Yes.
Yes.
And he did. And I think everyone understood from the moment David Pecker took that stand. I think a lot of people, including myself, reevaluated this case and said, you know what, I understand. This is not just hush money. This was about fundamentally changing the 2016 election. That was the goal here. And clearly the jurors believed that.
So
I'm also just now thinking about the E. Jean Carroll case when the judge at the end told the jurors that jury was anonymized. He said, forget you were here in substance. And now today the judge has actually said that they can discuss the case if they like. The choice is theirs. but they no longer are barred from discussing it. And he's actually also asked to meet with them to discuss their work, not to discuss the case, but to discuss their work. So we don't know what time these jurors are going to get out of the building tonight, but he's going to sit down with
actually,
them.
I'm
and
afraid.
then after that, I imagine they're
He
going to
can.
hear from pretty much every
unfortunately.
reporter that has been covering this. Hundreds of reporters will descend on them to try and get them to talk about the inner workings of that jury room.
Is Von Hilliard still with us? Vaughn, just tell me
I think
what's going on down there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think part of this is what is.
I feel like we just won like 100 gold medals.
November election,
right?
We talked about what a guilty verdict could mean to the stakes of this election. Donald Trump is repeatedly called November 5th the most important day in America in history. That is election day coming up. And for him, this only increases the stakes. Number one, these are state charges here. We do not know what his sentence will be. If he'll just be fine, probation, or whether he will be facing jail time. That is going to be the determination of Judge Merchan. And when you look at the election, of course, the expectation is that if you were to win the White House, that prison sentence, if he were to get one, would be suspended or whatever the punishment is here. But for Donald Trump, he has already sent out a fundraising video in the last 24 hours to his supporters that they were going to be throwing him in jail here in New York. And so for him, he has every intention of using this to his political advantage to the extent he can. And I think the first statement to come from any of his family members since this verdict was issued, I think is an example of that. That would be Don Jr., who was not here at the courthouse today. He was here yesterday. Eric Trump was inside the courtroom, currently still is. And I just want to read for you Don Jr.'s tweet, if I could. Quote, guilty on all counts. The Democrats have succeeded in their years-long attempt to turn America into a third world expletive. November 5 is our last chance to save it. I read that last line. November 5 is our last chance to save it.
Yes, it did, Becca.
Because Donald Trump himself on the campaign trail has repeatedly suggested that the end of America is near if they does not take back the White House. From our team of reporters they say Donald Trump, the defendant, has been seated inside of that courtroom, stoic, stone-faced. He looked at each of the jurors as they walked out, all 12 of those New Yorkers, as they walked out of the courtroom. This is somebody who is still seated in a straightforward position, understanding the political stakes now that he has been found guilty of these 34 felony counts here in New York.
Sweet.
Juan Hilliard, there was a point in the Republican primary
so he sat there and just stared the jury
campaigns
down.
of Chris Christie and a couple of others had some polling data that suggested that a conviction would change the dynamic in the Republican primary. Donald Trump seemed to, in his reptilian political survival skill set, I say that as a compliment actually, understand that and intuit that. He is now what he was hoping to never be, a convicted felon. His lawyers are in there making a last gasp effort. Todd Blanche has sought for an acquittal. He's moved for an acquittal that's been rejected by Judge Juan Merchan. And instead, he has a date, as you just said, for a sentencing, which is July 11th at 10 a.m.
July 11th, 10 a.m.
Your thoughts on, we've all adapted. Our brains have these adaptive
sentencing,
skills
July 11th,
to adapt
10 a.m.
to our politics, even when they're so perverted and distorted. But before we adapt too much, we will be covering the first ever convicted felon as a Republican presidential nominee. How does that change things?
Are they seizing his passports?
Number one, Nicole, if I may, July 11th, 2024 is a Thursday. 4 days later is the beginning of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so Donald Trump will be entering that Milwaukee arena with some form of a sentence.
He's mad. He's bigly mad. Oh, here we go.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a convicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6%.
Would you like some cheese with that wine?
In this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Hey, felon.
And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Are you bigly mad, felon?
DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do anything wrong.
He's a felon.
I'm a very
He's
innocent
a
man.
felon. He's a felon.
It's
He's
okay.
a
I'm fighting for our
felon.
country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration.
No,
Are you with Biden? Are you with Biden or the felon?
An opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win.
You're a
Because our
felon.
country's
You're
gone to
convicted.
hell. We don't have the same country
No,
anymore.
not really.
We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now.
Liar.
From prisons
Loser.
and from
Felon.
mental institutions,
Liar.
terrorists.
Soon you'll be
They're
pouring
taking
in
over
from a
our country.
prison.
We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case. Never.
Wine.
And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Cheese. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, felon.
First ever former American president to become a convicted felon, talking about terrorists and people from mental institutions coming into our country. Donald Trump using the same exact word that he used to explain his defeat in the 2020 presidential campaign. He called that a, quote, rigged election. He called this a, quote, rigged trial. His beef, Andrew, was that there was no venue change and he had to be tried in a place where, quote, we are at 5%.
Yeah,
so to Rachel's point, he possesses such a
Sentencing.
perverted understanding of the rule of law that his belief is that if he were in a place where he wasn't, quote, at 5% political support, there would have been a different outcome.
Well, I think it's a fundamental lack of accepting that people act out of principle and don't act out of self-interest, and that jurors can't be trusted unless they're MAGA Republicans. That is essentially what he's saying, is that the jury of my peers has to be people who voted for me.
Yeah.
That has been rejected. When I was on the Mueller team, the constant refrain was, we don't want to be in DC, which was code for we don't want a black juror. We want to be in a white venue with Republicans. That was rejected in Watergate. It was rejected in the Mueller investigation. That is not how our criminal justice system works. It is also fundamentally so dismissive of citizens, of people.
Yes. So I've got to mute that every once in a while so I don't get kicked out. Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you, everyone. I'm so sorry if I missed you. I was trying to say thank you. But the oh my gosh, the guilty counter. It started at 5 and just climbed and climbed and climbed.
Ding, 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 ding,
ding, ding, ding. It's best slot machine ever.
Right?
Yes. And by the way,
fabulous.
Yes. And by the way, let me just share this.
What you got?
This is July, and he wasn't kidding. Sentencing, July 11th, 10 a.m. Republican National Convention, Monday. Yeah. Oh, it's glorious.
Allison, yes, if you're able to donate on PayPal, that one is a little quick because more of the funds donated actually make it to her. So
yeah, but the other makes YouTube happy, so they're more likely to promote me. So it's kind of 6 of 1.
Half a dozen of the other, yes.
People are asking about how Trump's feeling and about his health. Let me have a look. Oh my God! I
can't imagine he's feeling well.
Yeah, really. Semprus Fi. Hello. Hello. Oh my God. Can we do the happy dance now, DP? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Oh my gosh.
Vine, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, if not, I'm sorry. Yes, it is frustrating that felons can't vote, but yet they can run for office. That is a bit of a pain in the katukas. But, I mean, the founding fathers never figured that someone with a felony charge would be able to run. I mean, that they would have the testicular fortitude to attempt that. So, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Thank you. No, it's fine, Dog Lover. Thank you so much. Thank you. Up here. Oh, Robin D is adopting some cats. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, and kitties are going to get forever homes. Thank you, Robin D. Thank you,
Jennifer, thank you for the donation.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yes, Brenda C. First time in his life he's ever been held accountable. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. And isn't it funny that he's crying for a rigged election after he's just been found guilty on 34 counts for trying to rig a previous election?
Mm-hmm. Bernadette, we should look at that too.
Oh.
Is she happy or not?
Yeah, I think I definitely might need to come on with you tomorrow.
Okay, please. Oh my gosh. So, oh man, I'm not quite sure if we're missing something. Problem with the closed captioning on this is it's ridiculously tiny. Never understood why. I can't read it at all. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a good point. Earth Eyes gifted 20 memberships to random people in the chat. Thank you, Earth Eyes. Thank you. Thank you. And Becca had a question here. We get the nomination at the convention. Oh, they both look serious. They're reading something.
About a kind of a legally frivolous request. Hey, would you override the jury and have a motion for acquittal, which they are allowed to request, and the judge said no.
And they always do, and the judge always says, well,
and they are allowed to then later point to things and say, hey, we've asked for this, and that's an appeals process that they point back to. After that, the judge did ask, and this goes to the point I was reporting, what is the, quote, current bail status? Because there are cases, sometimes cases involving violence or other issues where you would request a bail status or even to hold the person. And the prosecutor said there is no bail. They're not even going down that road on this case at this time. Defendant Trump then walked out the courtroom and the judge left. So when he says, oh, the defendant, now convict Trump, who will go through this process, says the real verdict comes later, that's false. The real verdict just came today. And the public, the society, we have to take that in. And if you agree or disagree is not the test. The test is, are we a society of the rule of law that abides by it, regardless of your personal feelings about any given outcome? And then we're going to follow this through July. It may be that people disagree about sentencing or other things that come down, but the real verdict has come and the real process will continue. And he is, as a citizen, a party to that.
And can I just say also that seeing those remarks from Trump live in the hallway, obviously the circumstances are now different. He's now the first ever American president, former president, to be convicted of crimes. He's now a different type of figure in history than he was half an hour ago. And yet he walks up to the camera and he just says all of the same stuff that he's been saying all of this time. It's all of the same stuff. He's like a chatty Cathy doll. You pull the string and the words come out. They're pre-programmed. His saying that it's rigged, he was saying it was rigged before the verdict ever came in. These are all the same lines that he's been using before the jury was picked. The whole he said that the 2020 election was rigged before he competed in the 2020 election. He said the 2016 election was rigged before he competed in that election.
Well, he was doing the rigging.
That he says he's just the same person. Nothing about this is going to change him. But he and his supporters are trying to change us as a country by delegitimizing the legal system of the United States of America because it has found Donald Trump guilty, because the legal system indicted him, because he was put on trial, because he's now been found guilty. They have been using that as their excuse to try to not just upend the American legal system, but
hysterical.
Get rid of it, to make Americans believe that it shouldn't be followed. And so the test here, yes, individual tests abound. This jury process was a test. The appellate process will be a test. The sentencing process is an adversarial process, and that itself will be a test. But the test for us as a country starts right now. Does the United States of America have a legal system that is binding on all citizens? Do we accept it? Do we protect the people who enact it? There are human beings at every step of this process who are flesh and blood and who have failed.
All right. Let's not borrow stress. We love Rachel from the top of her head to the tips of her toes. We love Rachel, but right now, let's look at let's look at some cards here for a minute. Okay. The convention. I decided to pull on the convention first. The upshot of what I have is chaos.
Ooh.
Of a lot of unhappiness. Yikes. So, and what it comes down to, I mean, the cards are in a certain order, but that isn't, the energy's not. Energy's a little fraught right now. It's a lot. Because of the justice, there will be some people who want to, thank you, Allison. There'll be some people who want to vote. You absolutely should vote for him. He's being persecuted, but there's real hope for women. There's real hope for the people voting for Democrats.
Yes.
There's some people who are going to vote for him anyway, but this justice card is a big problem, and this what he's been convicted of, and this is some real stonking not great. Between the people there who want Trump and don't want Trump. Then I pulled some more information, try to get a clarifier. I got the card for the country. Okay, that makes sense. And basically, he's a felon. He is a felon. Do we want the main person running for our party to be this person? Some do, some don't.
Right.
There's loggerheads. That the main thing I'm getting is ultimately the Republicans are in disarray, and this is good for women. That's what I'm getting.
Take this with a whole canister of Morton salt. So this is unconfirmed as of right now. But according to the Twitter sphere and reporters in the Twitter sphere, quote, the judge excused the parties, but not before asking about Trump's bail status. And the prosecutor told the judge that when something happens, there will be no bail. So if sentencing happens, it will be without bail. Or something happened. That's what Kristen is sending me over here. So I'm not quite sure. Like I said, take that with a canister of Morton salt. But that is what I'm getting over here. Okay.
Thank you. Now, is he going to try to flee the country? Is he going to refuse to show up?
I'm surprised they haven't taken his passport because, I mean, he's a convicted felon pending. Yeah. So.
Yeah, felon 45. Yep. I'm going to flee. I'm just so happy. My cheeks hurt.
I bet.
Watching that counter just go up and up and up and up. That was glorious.
Like the best pinball ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like something stops him. He can't. Thank you, Mrs. Couture. This is good for us. This is good for America. Everybody can be held accountable. Magician, lawyers trying to do stuff, but he's done. Matter of fact, I think his for all the talk, he's probably going to say that, oh, after this, people have donated all kinds of money. It feels like no. It feels like, I don't know if it's ultimately or whatever, but there are fewer people contributing to him. and he is burdened. And he's burdened by every stick that he made. I don't know if you remember this, but in Christmas Carol, you have Scrooge, and he's there, and the first ghost who visits him is Marley, his old business partner, the ghost of Marley. And what you probably do, but maybe you don't remember, Marley is wearing chains, big, heavy, loud chains. And he says the chains are made up of basically everything he did wrong. There are ledger books. There are all these things hanging from the chains. He said, I forged this chain link by link. That's what Trump has done. He is where he is because of his actions, one by one by one, in this case and in others. But there's something here that is he can't. I just get he can't leave. I don't know if it's Secret Service. I don't know if they do think his passport. I don't know.
Right.
But I don't know. Sony's asking, will Jack act now? In what? I'm afraid.
In clarification for what I said earlier, the state is not asking for bail for him to stay out before sentencing, so they're not requiring him to pay bail to be out of jail before sentencing. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my
Just
gosh.
clarify.
Cherry Bomb says he's too poor. There's that too. Who would take him? Oh my gosh, this is so good. Patty D. That's hysterical.
It's one of those where you just kind of get like the box wine and just turn the tap on. Sort of like that gif of Snow White with the big coffee thing and just yeah.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. Okay, how's
Thank you, Phyllis.
Yes. Oh, lucky girl, you queen, you absolute wonderful person. Thank you. Thank you for making this us be able to be here and safe. You have spearheaded this. Patrick, thank you so much. Gave 20 memberships to random people in the chat. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Really? DLC says MSNBC is now reporting Trump Nicola thought he was going to be found innocent.
I mean, Delulu.
Yeah.
Ooh, the biggest of Delulus.
Well, at the moment, it feels like he has gone deep into, it's a river, and it's not just a river in Egypt. Whoo, boy. All right, here, back up. I can put the blankie over you, but you got to back up. You can't stand on the blankie and have me put it on you at the same time. If you're holding it down.
I don't know if there's enough ketchup in New York. I don't know. I don't know.
Look at that. Look at that desperation. Day late, dollar short, not enough, complete lack. Desperately clutching whatever he has left. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Look, we don't know yet if he's actually going to be sentenced to any prison time. This is his first felony conviction. For what it's worth, it's not his first. It's his 34th felony conviction
this is true.
in a day.
This is true. Can somebody dig up his baby book somewhere and put in today for baby's first felony? Can we do that?
First 34.
I mean, there's achieving and there's overachieving. I mean, if go big or go home.
Bigly.
I mean, who needs bigly? Who needs a single felony? I mean, if you're gonna do it, go all the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, card for first card.
Yes.
Up the river. You're guilty.
Yes.
All right. Even if he isn't going to prison, I just thought that's a good place to start. Because of Trump the businessman. Oh, the weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. The shadow knows. You're a felon. You're convicted. All the dumb things he's done, but he still thinks he can. He's still going to try to spin this in his own little pinhead that this is going to turn into a victory, and in reality, because this is minor arcana, and this is minor arcana, and this is minor arcana, he actually thinks, yeah, that's exactly how it will be. Not understanding, you're already down here on the low side of the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth, the E. Jean Carroll case was civil and not criminal. So this is his first criminal felony. Is this his? Because he didn't have any misdemeanors before. So this is his first, we now have a rap sheet. Okay.
With 34 things on it.
I mean, I think, how many felonies total did they pin the Central Park 5 with?
I don't know. It
wouldn't have been less than 34.
I have a question.
That would just be yes, dear.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
How many felony counts did Martha Stewart get? Because she got 4 months in prison.
3 or 4, I think. I don't know.
And Trump got hit with 34. And that was in New York.
Does that mean he's going to come out with a hand-knitted poncho?
There's not a chance. But Martha Stewart, that was her first conviction, wasn't it? And she served jail time.
Yes. So funny when you see pictures of her and Snoop together, and there's only one felon in the picture. It's not who you think it would be. Yes.
Lisa says Truth Social stock is dropping. Oh, hang on.
Ooh. Belly flop.
Well, after hours, yeah. Yep, it's after hours here. Let me share. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Pamela. Thank you. Okay, so it closed here at 51.84. It's now at 46.96. So just under 47.
It had gone up over the last 2 days. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's been up around 50.
Nature is healing.
Yeah, year to date.
Yes, nature is healing.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm serious. I don't know. It's a shame we all live in the same place, because I'd be like, all right, let's bring chips and dip and
barbecue.
Who's gonna barbecue and
yes. Yeah, let's put some vegetable skewers on the grill and do the thing. Yes.
Veggie burgers. I think I might. I know I've got some kind of veggie something in me. Oh my gosh.
I've got a bottle of sparkling grape juice in there. This is going to happen.
There you go.
Yes.
So right now I'm just trying to get a sense of the energy kind of overall. They did it. They did it. They pulled that rabbit out of that hat. And he's a convicted felon on 34 counts. Yes. And now everybody's running around. Everybody's back and forth, and I've got 3 nights here in a row. I pulled 3 cards. I got 3 nights.
Yes.
So we're dancing. They're mad. This is. Oh my gosh! This is glorious.
Yes. Oh, Ricky, honey, enjoy your meatloaf.
Yes. Yes,
I just know that 34-0 ain't bad. Sorry, bad joke.
No, you're
bad
good.
meatloaf joke. Oh goodness.
Oh boy. So, gosh. I don't know.
Oh, lucky girl. You're so sweet. Thank you.
All right, let me see if there's a message for us. Oh, Sandra, definitely good news. Karen's saying celebration ice cream tonight. Oh. All right, is there a message for us? Oh.
Yes.
See, right now, I am so elated. It's hard for me to fully, like, okay, this is going to calm back down. This is more serious than we realize now, because perhaps some of you are thinking, this is so great. Thank you, Viola. But thank you for helping us stay calm over 2,000 times.
Oh, that is adorable.
That is, when I glanced at it, I could have sworn it said, thank you for telling us to stay calm 2,000 times.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But I'm getting, this is serious. This is a heavy burden. This is going to be hard to throw off. Kristen says, update, Donald Trump's potential sentence, from no time up to 4 years in prison. Martha Stewart got 4 months.
5 months. Electra Storm looked it up. It was 5 months. Yeah.
5 months. I can handle 5 months.
Yeah, that pushes past November. I'm so okay with that.
And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But just, first of all, I wonder if they're going to be there. I've been getting cards off and on for like a fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, please don't just be a fine. But the emperor, blah, blah, blah. He will still get some donations. It just feels like it's dropping off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those without money, he's fleeced them to death. And those with money aren't going to want to be associated with a convicted felon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I'm just getting at the sentencing. I've got some real legal pain there for him. And, he's saying how they did it. They pulled the rabbit out of the hat. I think they might pull the rabbit out of the hat at sentencing, too. I mean, I don't want to get our hopes up too high. David Miner. Oubliette.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, Heidi, is Trump going to run? No, I just read on that. I'm getting somebody stopping him. Something stopping him.
Yeah.
This feels more serious. What?
CC Ryder said, actually each charge is 4 years, so 34 times 4. However, in the New York state, the max sentencing is 20 years. Mershon can sentence probation, fine, and or jail. Well, you can do consecutively too, I'm assuming, but yeah, that's.
He's going the distance.
I love that song. Yes.
Oh, Lady Eva's wondering how will this affect the lunatics in Congress. You know the answer to that. You know the answer.
Oh, Lord. Marge. Like just a ticked off Pomeranian.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at the jury. Let's look at Mershon and the juror safety. Oh my gosh. Judge Mershon. He's relieved it's over. I mean, obviously there's going to be sentencing and what have you, but on the whole, I think he's like, I haven't read on Melania, but all right. Mershon. He's thinking about what's going to come up in July. Am I really going to send this guy to prison? It's a burden. Mm-hmm. That would be a big deal. Page of Wands is, Trump is usually the king of wands. This is him brought down to size. So this is going to weigh on him between now and July. Am I really going to do this? How am I going to sentence this guy? I mean, obviously there's input, there are guidelines, all this stuff, but I think that, according to the cards, this is going to weigh on him. But
Valerie at Sage of Scale brings up a good thing. I wonder if time will be tacked on for breaking other gag order rules. So, and apparently his orangeness has already been posting on Truth, calling himself a political prisoner and grifting for money. Yes.
A political prisoner. You're walking around. You're walking around doing whatever you want, you big jerk.
Yeah.
CC Ryder, I love the wording.
Free Spirit, he sold his tiny jet. I say tiny. He sold his Cessna as opposed to the monstrosity of the Trump force done. So, yeah.
As far as the jurors go, they're just people. And if they raise their heads, they're going to make targets of themselves. I think they know that. They'll be seen as incredibly just like political operatives no matter what. I don't even know that they could make much money right now. I've said this before, it may feel like you want to get this off your chest or make money while the iron's hot, but don't. Go home. If you can't, just stay home. Or you have to do something. Write a book. Go home. Keep your head down. Write a book. It'll come out later. And luckily, what I get is a lot of the jurors at least backing up a little. Some of them might talk, but on the whole, the people on the right, they're not going to listen to you. They're not. This is not a normal thing. Even the other Trump things that have gone on, where you had some jury people, that crazy female foreman who she was eccentric.
Ooh, yes. Anybody who's that big of a Rudy Giuliani fan, you just gotta go. Ooh, yeah.
Don't do it. This is not the same thing. And just stay home. Go home, stay home, get some sleep, start writing some notes, be talking to a therapist to deal with the stress. Keep yourself and your family safe.
Yes. Kristen's saying that the fundraising platform used by Trump has crashed due to heavy traffic after the guilty verdict. So he may have some short-term injection. Yeah. But again, he's fleecing. The only ones that are giving are the ones who are your everyday folks. Your lower middle class and below are the only people who are chunking money at this dude at this point.
Right.
But the donors that he needs to finish his campaign and to pay off these bills and whatever fines are coming and everything else, those donors, they're not going to want to come near him with a 10-foot pole because he is now a convicted felon.
Yeah.
So,
Valerie, wait, who doesn't like Depeche Mode? How could somebody not like Depeche Mode? I mean, on a personal level, a bit of a mess, but
yes,
incredibly talented. Love Depeche Mode. Oh my gosh, let's look at. I'm going to have a quick look at Melania. I wonder if this is enough for her to be like, "Hello, I want to talk to my lawyer."
Yeah. I mean, they didn't take her passport, so.
Oh, gosh. This is glorious.
This is something. This is mark it on your calendar. This is, we've been saying for years that we're getting tired of living through historical events. I mean, after the rest of them, I don't kind of mind this.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, the weird thing is I'm not getting much. I think she's where she is. I don't think she's leaving yet.
Oh. Okay.
It's weird. She is pre and post nupted down to the ground.
She is numpted.
She's got the
super numpted.
She's fully numpted. I'm sorry. I'm getting their relationship's been alive for a long time. She's there for the money in the contract. And it's a secret. I'm here to look pretty, but I have secrets. And you're not going to see what's really behind the facade. Then again, half of my face can't move through my own choice, so you're not going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to be all feeling beaten up, and she might actually show a little modicum of sympathy. But he'll be obnoxious about it and awful, and that should be like, okay, well, that was that. But ultimately, we know what she wants. She wants his money. So,
yeah, well, as the Rolling Stones once told us, you can't always have what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. So, yeah.
LIVESTREAM, can you read on what Alito and Thomas are feeling about the verdict?
Mad. Big mad.
Well, there's nothing they can do about it.
Right. I mean, he can't take this to SCOTUS, I don't think, because it's state. So, well.
If there's like 70 says, by the way, I don't suppose you're getting any tower cards, are you? No. Okay, just three more. And then, oh gosh, I don't even, like I said, I don't know. I have some cake mix. I could at least make a little bit of chocolate cake.
Yay!
It's just this isn't Melania. Prosecutors. In fact, this feels like, I mean, we've got the whole Ngoron situation, Letitia James situation, but this feels like Fonnie Willis. So that's still there, even though they're delaying stuff, and McAfee is listening to anybody who's had a hangnail.
Yeah. I stubbed my toe once. Does that mean that? Yeah.
Right. So I shouldn't have to be here. Oh, okay. Let's have a hearing. But 8 of Swords, 5 of Pentacles, Ace of Wands. He's going to be this man. Okay. Anybody who's thinking for 1 second he's going to grow, he's going to, because I know I myself occasionally, there's this part of me that's like, okay, well, eventually you learn. I mean, you may burn your hand on the stove a number of times, but eventually you stop. He's not going to stop. He's just not. He's not going to change. He's not going to apologize. He's not going to come to his senses. He's just not. But this is weak. This is incredible weakness. He has more free time for now to go out campaigning and repeating himself like a broken record. David's asking, can the Georgia case start now? I'm afraid not. They've more hearings.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I hardly know what to do with myself, but I'll be back. Oh, you're coming on tomorrow. That's right. Yes.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And by the way, I love that shirt. That looks
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at noon, and we will look for. Oh gosh, there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot, but it's very exciting. Oh,
yes.
Thank you, James. I'm glad you like the Lady Justice. All right, so hang in there, and we will see you tomorrow at noon.
Mm-hmm.
He's a felon, he's a felon, 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 he's a felon, 34 times he's a felon. Yay! Okay. Have a great
He's a jolly big felon.
For he's a jolly big felon. For he's a jolly big felon. Which nobody can deny. They'll try. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye. Oh.